Hey everybody, it's me again, as they call Space Science Daddy Split, here to talk a little bit about science today, because, you know, we're all good kids trying to make it through this quarantine and this apocalypse, but on the other end, we have to come out a little bit smarter than we did going in. Otherwise, you know, there might be people suggesting that we inject sanitizer into our veins or something silly like that. So I think it's important to keep a scientific eye out. I was planning on making some videos on like a science channel, and I might still do that in the future, but they would be a bit more produced. As for now, I just want to talk a little bit about stuff that I find cool. And I think the first video, I mean, I have a few things that I'd like to just talk about because I think it's super awesome. But the first thing I guess I should talk about is like what I do and what it is that's... Sorry, there's a speed run going on over here. I was just taking a quick look at it. Some Super Mario 64. So what do I do? I'm a PhD student in physics. In particular, I'm in cosmology. So a good question that people can ask is, what is cosmology? Is it really just the study of how to apply lipstick and nail polish beautifully onto your body? No, in fact, you would be wrong. That would be cosmetology, and I understand those things could get mixed up quite easily because, I mean, look at how beautifully I do my nails. It's easy to think that maybe I'm an expert in that field too. Sadly not, but if you know anybody who is, hook me up because I could always use some fashion advice. So I would say no. Okay, actually, cosmology is related more to, like, you know, the universe on its grandest possible scales. And so you could stop me there and you could say, as many people have done before, unfortunately, I've gotten a few messages in the past from people being like, oh, cosmology, that's really cool. So like, are you a Libra or a Sagittarius or you have Cancer? No, I'm none of those things. First of all, I'm a Taurus, very stubborn, bullheaded. And I have, you know, my mom, bless her soul, sent me a Taurus coaster that JJ broke a couple weeks ago. So if you're watching this, JJ, I don't forgive you. I'm still waiting. You said you were going to glue it back together. You haven't fucking glued it back together. So glue it back together before my mom finds out, or she's going to freak out at both of us. So no, it's not the study of horoscopes. But I do like it when people kind of send me those messages as openers because it is instantly like, I already check out of the conversation. I'm always just like, you know what, okay. Even if they mean well, it's like it's hard to have a substantial conversation with somebody when that's kind of their first instinct. So it's been 3 minutes. I should probably answer, what is cosmology? I don't actually have like a dictionary definition. Maybe I should get a dictionary definition, see what does the dictionary say? And then I'll give it my own definition. Define... God damn it. Sorry, I know this is unprofessional. Define cosmology. The science of the origin and development of the universe. Modern astronomy is dominated by the Big Bang Theory, which brings together observational astronomy and particle physics. I would say that that's a fairly good definition. The origin and development of the universe, kind of. I would probably go a little bit further and say that cosmology is kind of, as I said a little earlier, it's a study of the universe on its largest possible scales. So there's many different eras. If you believe the standard Big Bang picture, which you should, the universe is very old now. It's about 13 billion years old, and it's huge. It's like enormously large. Like the distance between us and the closest star is just like insanely far. And you have to remember the universe is trillions and trillions of times even bigger than that. So it is truly vast. So people can study cosmology in a wide variety of eras over that 13 billion years. You can study what people would call late-time cosmology, which is kind of trying to study patterns in the universe today that we see around us. And you can do this by looking at things that we in astronomy and cosmology would call large-scale structure. So, for example, it's hard to go in the kind of the opposite direction, but you see all these stars that are out there, and if you were to kind of zoom out and look at the universe in a box, then you would see a whole bunch of this interesting structure. I don't have a good picture of it handy, but it would be kind of like filamentary. So you would have like a box, and you would see a lot of things that kind of look like veins, like running through the box. And these veins, the things that look like veins, would really just be like galaxies and galaxy clusters that were just stuck together, essentially, or close enough together over the evolution of our universe. And so people study this filamentary structure of the universe. This is the study of large-scale structure. And by looking at patterns in the way that stars formed and galaxies clumped together, you can start to get a lot of information about things that happened at earlier times. You know, where did the origins of these galaxies come from? Why do they form in this specific shapes? Why are the galaxies and the galaxy clusters as heavy as they are? A big mystery in the field right now is at the center of every galaxy there seems to be a supermassive black hole, which is a black hole that is extremely heavy compared to anything else in the solar system. Usually they're like millions or billions of times the mass of the sun. And nobody really knows where they came from in the first place, because these are, like, how do you form a really heavy black hole? It's hard to do. So these are kind of mysteries of late-time cosmology. If you go back earlier, there's kind of a natural barrier, I would say, between, like, so stars formed. So here's now. I guess maybe I'll go this way. So stars, okay, so here we are now. And as we go back in time, stars formed. Then at some point, stars stopped forming because things just hadn't collapsed. So we're going back in time now. And as you go back further and further, the universe does nothing for like a few 100 million years. And then there's something known as the cosmic microwave background, which is where most of my research takes place, actually, is in the context of this thing. So I'll talk more about that later. And the cosmic microwave background is essentially the oldest light in the universe. It was essentially formed 300,000 years after the Big Bang. So again, pretty much like 13 billion years ago. And people can study this oldest light in the universe today to kind of get a picture of what the universe looked like, you know, at this very early time. And so people do that. People do a lot of work on that. I do a lot of work on that personally. And there's an amazing amount of information you can get. So we have the large-scale structure that you can study down in this regime. And then right here you have like kind of this wall, this two-dimensional image of this cosmic microwave background, which is the oldest light in the universe and gives you all this cool information and fun ideas to play with. And then if you go even further behind that wall, the universe is a lot different than we see it today. Now we think of space as kind of being very empty, very cold. You die if you go out there because you just freeze to death, or the pressure is just way too low, and you just pop off. But if you go behind this cosmic microwave background wall, you really get this interesting type of universe where it's kind of compressed so much that it's really hot. And in fact, if you were outside at this time, you would just die because you would like burn to death, essentially. The universe is what we call like a plasma at this point. And a lot of the physics of what happens between this cosmic microwave background and the beginning of the universe are very unknown. So this is where most of the research in modern cosmology takes place, is between these two regions. And the closer you get to what we think of as the Big Bang, the harder it is to get any direct evidence or information from this part of the timeline of the universe. So a lot of people in my research group work on literally pretty much everything across the whole timeline. I kind of focus on things like between like 1 minute after the Big Bang and like 300,000 years after the Big Bang. Some of my friends focus on stuff that happens maybe before the Big Bang, if you can imagine such a thing. And I know a couple of people who work a lot on this large-scale structure stuff that happens like millions or billions of years after the Big Bang. But all of them are cosmologists. And so cosmology, in my opinion, is kind of, it's the study of the universe at any point in time, but it's the study of the whole universe at that point in time. So we look for patterns as to, you know, the way that things evolved. And there's all kinds of weird and funky things that happen close to the Big Bang, so I'll spend some videos talking more about that. At this cosmic microwave background, I'll spend lots of videos talking about that. And then during the large-scale structure, there's a lot of astronomy and cosmology that can be done at this point. But things get much more complicated at this point because the hotter the universe gets, honestly, the math gets a lot simpler. And at these late times, it's really hard to track things properly. Yeah, so that's my opinion of what cosmology is. And, I feel very fortunate and very, very lucky to be able to spend at least a bunch of my years of my life so far studying a lot of these fun problems and just being able to think about what's going on out there at the beginning of time and space. And yeah, so I'll go into depth about some of these topics. This was more just to be a broad overview. I hope you learned something, and hopefully you'll come out of this COVID crisis even a little bit smarter. But hopefully not enough that makes you want to go into cosmology, because there's no jobs. So keep that in mind too. But if you want to talk about anything in more detail, of course, you guys are always welcome to send me messages or comments or whatever. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Spaceman Scientist, out.